All right, it looks like we're getting started. For anybody who's interested, I don't know if anybody is interested in looking at this, but this is actually part of a four-person race. So there's a couple other people who you've seen this tournament racing alongside these guys. It's always an honor to race against Xelna, the world record holder, so people definitely jump in when there's a race where he's involved. Any thoughts on the beginning of the game, guys, or on the two players?
We can just introduce kind of like the race. So this is a race between number 1 seed Xelna from America's Hat, and then we got Benjamin all the way from Belgium rocking the 8th seed. Should be an incredibly good race. Both of these runners are extremely talented, and I hope you're nearly as excited as I am.
Did you just call Canada America's Hat?
Yeah, it's like America's best friend. Kind of same thing.
Do you know where Xelna is from?
Yeah, I know. He's from the part that's not real. It's okay.
Does Xelna even exist then? It's a real question.
No, why do you think he gets 123s? Because those aren't real either.
Is any of this real? Is life just a speed game within an old console? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves. No? Nothing?
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. I'm pretty deep with my commentary. So, not much to talk about in Escape. We're gonna see them picking. In Escape, the main thing is just they're gonna try to have very efficient movement. They're gonna try to enter doors straight on without nudging against the door. You move slower when you're nudging against the door than when you're just normally walking. They're going to be pumping against walls and pumping through the air a little bit. They're going to be trying to get all their combat very precise and just hoping for a good movement from all the enemies.
Hey, do you just want to do a timer check so we can kind of see where we're synced up at?
Yeah, I'm at well, why don't you go?
Wait, say that again. You broke up a little bit.
Sorry, I'm at 240 for Ben and 235 for Xelna.
Okay, my two streams are like exactly synced with your Ben stream.
Okay, I'm gonna refresh my Xelna stream. I don't have live streamers, so I'm just doing this all off of a. Oh, well, now I'm ahead of you with. No,
here, I can give you the times that these guys are at here. They're both at 57, 58, 59.
Okay. So I'll just wait a second before doing most of my commentary. I'll try and set up live streamer for the next race. I'm getting.
I think I might be ahead now.
Yeah, I think I'm a little ahead, but I'm just gonna wait before I talk about anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
33, 34, 35.
Oh, no, I'm good now, actually.
Oh, I'm way ahead now. Jeez. Yeah, and through Escape, we're going to see both of these players trying not to take any damage, really. That'll waste time, and there's also not really a good heart pickup until you get to Eastern. I think both of these players will skip the Sanctuary heart, which refills your hearts. That's definitely one of the reasons that a lot of us do get it. Eastern Overworld. Xelna for sure will not pick it up. I'm not sure about Ben. It's worth noting that Ben has been taking a little break from this game. He's been playing the Final Fantasy games and getting his sub button, which congratulations to him. We were all very happy to see him.
Because he found out that Final Fantasy runners are super attractive, so he wanted to join in on the group.
Do you have anyone in particular in mind there?
Obviously K-Rob16, super good looking FF9 runner.
Oh yeah,
self-promotion.
Beautiful.
Oh my god.
I heard she's just got an incredible body. So we're entering
12 out of
the
10.
sewers. Body.
So now you'll see one of the first kind of random rooms. There are a couple of patterns that they can get where they pick up a key out of this little mutt here. And, you know, sometimes it can be favorable and sometimes it can be kind of annoying, but it's not a huge deal either way. It looks like both of them got decent patterns and got the key quite easily. So it looks like my boy Ben's picking up that sink heart. Says, I just want a little safety. This will give him a little room for error throughout the run. So he'll be able to take, exactly one more heart of damage than Xelna. So not a whole lot going on in this next segment here. They'll just be making their way to Eastern Palace. There's a couple Octoroks you need to dodge and a couple of other enemies that are kind of getting in the way, but nothing too troublesome for either of them, I assume. And then they'll begin the first real dungeon after the escape.
Yep. It's just worth noting, some people aren't always aware, but there's a lot of intricacies and technicalities to the movement in this game, so you will often see one runner gaining time on another, and in this race, it'll probably generally be Xelna gaining time on Ben, and you won't always know exactly why.
I know why. Xelna was actually not born by humans. He was grazed in the Elysian fields of heaven, where he was magicked down to Earth to speedrun the hell out of this game.
Jesus, that is a beautiful poem about Xelna.
It's perfect.
From somebody with
not as perfect as Xelna.
Jeez, man, good stuff. Wow, all of my streams are... Oh, my internet is not great today. All my streams keep getting behind. I'm gonna pause the speed gaming stream because I don't need to watch that. So yeah, Xelna already with a not insignificant lead, just from playing more efficiently. I'm seeing Xelna isn't playing with splits today, like a true OG, no splits. And he looks like he gets a nice big key skip there. We take damage from the Popo and use it to press that button while taking a second piece of damage from the anti-fairies.
So it looks like Ben picked up the extra 5 arrows and Xelna skipped them. So he'll be hoping for an arrow drop before the first boss fight. Or else he'll have to pick up some in a pot nearby. But typically you get one or the other drop.
Xelna's on really good pace here. We'll see what he looks like when he catches the pendant. But yeah, definitely worth noting that Ben is doing his race strats. Sank Heart and 5 arrows. And as well he should. His strategy here is to play safe and to think he's gonna come back if Xelna makes a mistake. And this looks like it's gonna be something like a 1030 or 1031 pendant catch for Xelna, which is just phenomenal. I mean, coming up with that in a tournament race. Just terrific. Great stuff from Xelna. Amazing start.
And even though Ben looks like he is an entire boss fight behind, his pace is equally impressive.
He's equal with his PB pace. So that just shows you kind of the tier of play that Xelna's at, and that's why he's a massive favorite to win this tournament. There's a bunch of tournaments going on right now, but I don't think any of them have a favorite at quite the same level that Xelna is. And it's not because of just how good his PB is, it's because of how good he is every time. His consistency in this game is just incredible. We're going to be seeing them using the dash boots, somewhat different movement, these Pegasus boots, and they're also going to be getting super speed off the boots. Super speed can be activated in several ways. The main one that you see in this run these days is by hitting the dash button 1 frame after you release a spin. That, in a sense, kind of stores the dash and puts you in a glitch state where you can move at dash speed without dashing. And this is faster than actually dashing because you can go diagonally, you can go around corners, and so on. Looks like Xelna is skipping a few of the super speeds here that only save a few frames. Probably just not feeling completely confident. I think I remember in another race he missed a couple. And he's definitely someone who keeps an eye on his play. And he's always going to be doing... Oh, it looks like he may have... Oof!
Yeah, had a little hiccup there on that one. Went off the cliff
hiccup
there and then lost the spin speed.
Yeah, so the movement with spin speed, there's definitely a lot of weird mistakes you can make with the spin speed movement. It's definitely, it's very fast and it can be very awkward. You need to move very precisely. And because you're in the glitch state, which is in a sense a dash state, you hop off of ledges immediately, just like you would with a quick hop, which is where you hit A as you're kind of teetering on a ledge, and you hop immediately without the lag from the hopping. So if you hit a ledge, this happens most often on Death Mountain. If you hit a ledge while you're in super speed, you'll jump off immediately, and it can really ruin your movement. So we saw Xelna do not really a very common mistake there, but maybe he's nervous.
It was a rookie mistake, that's all.
Yeah. Xelna still gets nervous, and I think his 1031 pace, he may have been a little nervous. So he lost a few seconds back on that overworld there, but definitely still the leader and the presumptive favorite in this race. And there's not much to say about... I know we already said that about Eastern and Escape. There's not much to say about them, but not much to say about Desert until we get to the boss. We're going to be using the dash boots a lot. There's a lot of long rooms with not much in them. We did see Ben just picked up that red rupee there. These players are going to be thinking about their rupee counts. It's great to have a bunch of rupees. That you'll see them pulling on some trees after Hera.
Xelna actually went out of his way to pick up a 20 drop there.
For a red. I think he thinks that that's going to be faster for him than blue rupees from the first tree. Or
especially if something does go wrong and they get hit, that can cause some issues.
It's just ideal to pick up at least one red from that prize pack. In 8 drops, there's only I believe there's only 1 red rupee. It's the 4th drop in the prize pack, so you usually only see 1 in all of Light World. Maybe you see a second one from the Gold Knights in Aghanim's Tower, but generally You already want to be full up on rupees there. You don't want to be relying on drops at that point. Optima?
The rest of Desert Palace is pretty straightforward. There's not any like incredibly difficult puzzles that need to be solved. So they'll just be kind of meandering their way through the second half of this dungeon, picking up a couple of keys and killing some enemies along the way for one room to open a door. And then they'll be making their way to the next boss, which is extremely RNG heavy. It is possible to kill it quite quickly if you have good RNG and good execution. But sometimes, even with great execution, this boss can be kind of a hassle. So Xelna has a pretty productive first cycle there. Second cycle looks just as good. Meanwhile, Ben having a little trouble at the end of his first cycle. And Xelna cleans it up in 3.
Yep, 3 cycles, very solid. Probably Xelna's average is a 3 cycle. Something to note about the fight, the first cycle is always the same, so you definitely want to have a plan of attack for that first cycle that you do the same every time. For most people, it's 2 left, 2 up, 2 down. I mean, 2 left, 2 right, 2 down. And then you just react. You react to their movements and to how well you've done in the other cycles as you go through the other ones. But basically, they're keeping the same distance from each other. Xelna had that hiccup in Overworld, but Ben had a worse boss fight. And the distance from each other is basically the same that it was after Eastern, just basically about the text box after, or the cutscene after catching the pendant is how far apart they are. Xelna's doing this new fake flips that I've seen where you don't hold the sword. A little bit faster movement there, but I'm not about to change myself. This fake flippers glitch just involves scrolling the screen when you hit the water. Basically, the game gets a little confused, and instead of evaluating whether it has the flippers, it says, okay, main thing I have to do is scroll the screen, and then it doesn't think about it again, and you're still in the water. So we use that to really in only this one place. It's amazing that it's only one place where it's useful. But we use that to get to the whirlpool, which makes this travel a bit faster than if we ran around the left of the castle or anything like that.
So you'll notice the runners will be moving pretty slowly with this old man that follows them. The game doesn't allow you to dash. You can perform the dash, but it'll still move at Link's standard walking speed, and it's pretty slow and looks kind of goofy, so walking's just as fine to get through the dungeon there, or cave rather.
So apparently it's Emma's birthday. Happy birthday, Emma.
Thank you.
I heard you're 47.
Oh, I was about to say, judging from her picture, she looks like she just turned 23.
I wish.
Is it a birthday in Canada, or do you call it, is it your Boxing Day?
Oh my god. It's a birthday.
I'm just kidding. Of course, Boxing Day is some nonsense around Christmas that nobody cares about that they do in Canada. So
Somebody actually said, they were like, is Boxing Day, you know, the one day a year that Canadians like let out all their grievances, and that's why they're so nice the rest of the year? They just like all get mad and they like box each other on Boxing Day.
That would be pretty funny. All of my female friends, well, not all of them, a few of my female friends are a gush about your new prime minister. He seems like a pretty nice guy.
Because
Yeah,
he seems sweet.
Yeah, he seems like a real sweetie.
Looks like
But he's
me and my
also, I
older
don't know,
brother.
his dad was prime minister. It was kind of silver spoon situation. I'm just jealous that all the girls like him. But me and you, K-Rob, we got Xelna, so we don't need the girls. And Xelna is playing a beautiful run so far. He's coming up here into the second part of Hera.
Makes me feel better that I went to prom alone, right?
I took my sister.
I'm so sorry. I would rather go alone.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. Well, let's not talk about that. Why did I? Okay. So we've got both players coming up into the second half of Hera. We've got the Beetle Room, then we've got the Bomb Jump, then we've got Bumper Skip, then we've got Moldorm. So a lot of action here. And Xelna's doing the new Bomb Jump, but not the very fast version of it. He's doing a version of it where he still has time to bonk and just has to kind of use the arrow switch to place himself. So that's probably the time save there is probably not reflected in this split because you need to do the arrow switch for the placement, but it probably makes the next split about a second faster would be my guess. We're seeing Ben doing the old style bomb jump where you slash from above. Definitely I would recommend that for new players. And the bonk on the wall there, it does serve a purpose. It gives you an extra few pixels of leeway. The bomb jump is much harder without it, so new players respect the bonk. We've got Moldorm going down fairly quickly for Xelna, and his time is still quite solid. It's a 22.0x pendant catch, which certainly I would be, I would be puking and screaming if I got that time for Hera pendant catch, and I would die immediately because I would be so nervous. But for Xelna, it's normal. He's cool as a cucumber.
I don't know what that means, but I like it.
So we're going to see both players getting their rupee count up, pulling on some trees in a little bit. This was just discovered a couple of years ago, one of the most recent discoveries in this game, which is so complex but so well understood. Xelna didn't really want to get all those beats, but that's okay. He dashed just a little bit too far to the left and bonked the tree. And got some nice lag.
So it looks like Xelna's going to have like a 23.5-ish Master Sword, which is really sweet time for no save quit. And it looks like Ben's probably going to be somewhere around 24 minutes-ish, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, my guess would be that Ben will get not quite a sub 24 Master Sword here, or maybe just barely a sub 24 Master Sword.
Or maybe a 24 flat. Don't let me down, Benjamin.
Yep, we got it. So a 24 flat Master Sword from Ben. Generally, your first sub 24 Master Sword in no major glitches, that's a pretty big achievement. I actually highlighted mine. Ooh, Xelna missing that bird, so he's gonna have to do an extra kill here. I forget what's fastest. Yep, he remembers to beam that that little bush there. So when the bird is the fourth kill, so to get the rupees back in the tree, you have to kill 4 enemies without getting hit to get the red rupees. And Xelna just tried a strat where he dashes through that bird and just dash past it instead. But there's a nice backup there where you slash that that bush with the beam, and you remembered to do it. And that not getting hit thing, that's also why you see Ben avoiding this guard that came from the bush so intently. You really just don't want to get hit at all through this sequence. Then you need to recover. I'm maybe a little behind. Where are you guys at in the timers?
22, 23, 24.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so they're entering Agnim's Tower. Agnim's Tower is a pretty difficult dungeon, actually. Very neglected by new players a lot. Because it's kind of hard to time because... Well, this is why I recommend having a separate split for the tower and for the boss. The boss is going to be RNG, what we call the blue balls. So you're going to be able to reflect only some of his attacks. And it's random how many you can and how many you have to just wait for. Xelna having some trouble here on this. I think I'm ahead on Xelna's stream. Xelna had some trouble there in that dark room, got knocked around by the blue guards a little bit. But yeah, this Agnim's Tower is pretty much constant action. Every room there's something to do. It's not true in most dungeons. Most dungeons have at least a few rooms where you're just kind of walking. So definitely a difficult little while, and kind of anticipates what you dungeon of the game, Ganon's Tower.
Ben runs into a little bit of trouble there on that dark bridge. Gets hit by the one Blue Knight a couple of times. Probably
Yeah, it looks like
a couple of seconds there.
Ben and Xelna had almost kind of similar dark bridge rooms there. Both had some issues.
So now hopefully Xelna and Ben can both get some decent Aghanim luck. Each one's a 50-50 chance, except for the first one of each of the rounds of 4 is fixed for the energy ball. So Xelna's off to kind of a rough start. Hasn't had the greatest of luck so far. So perhaps this is a chance for Ben to close the gap a little bit. Wow, both of them are having terrible luck so far. Neither of them has had any real consistency with getting energy balls.
Like Xelna at least had a 28 transition. So a sub 29 light world is definitely still decent for most of us, but definitely not what Xelna's looking for. Xelna would be looking for well into the 28, a mid 28 or lower.
All right, so Ben's kind of made up a little bit of it after having a rough start. And it looks like he's going to finish up here. All right, so although he had a really, really crappy start to the fight, Ben had a decent mid and end fight there. Probably saved a few seconds on Xelna because Xelna had a pretty rough Aghanim, but still has a pretty sizable lead at this part in the run.
Yeah, Xelna definitely had a stronger light world overall, and they both had pretty rough luck there with the blue balls. So I think we're seeing something like a 35 to 40 second advantage for Xelna right now as they go into Palace of Darkness and start the Dark World. So that's certainly going to be a lot for Ben to have to fix, because even for a player like Ben, who has a very solid Dark World and not such a good Light World, Dark World is where Xelna's superior skill shows itself the most. So Ben is going to have a lot of trouble finding places to make this up. He's going to have to hope that Xelna gets some bad RNG, or gets some bad boss fights, or gets a death somewhere. Even some deaths. For example, a death in Chomp's room in Turtle Rock. That's only approximately... That would only take about as long as the distance between the two players right now. So, definitely we have to say big advantage to Xelna right now, and it looks like this race is going kind of how we anticipated it would be. I don't know if you think that's a fair assessment, the two of you, but...
I'm a big Ben fanboy, so I'll never stop believing, never give up.
I believe in Ben. I believe in Ben, but you don't want Xelna to get ahead. That's what I think. You don't want Xelna to get ahead, because when he gets ahead, there's not much you can do to get back. As well as you play, the best you can play is probably what he's already doing. And that's why we love him.
Yeah, I mean, Xelna can pull out times that are even better than the second place time, just casually, so it's he's really a hard contender.
Yeah, and when you play against one of these top people, I felt this in my race against Blunt Bunny. When you play against one of the very top people, even when you're ahead, you're thinking, there's so much stuff I'm doing that's wrong that I can barely even... You know, every time you enter a door wrong, you think there's a few more frames, there's another problem. I don't know if Ben is going through that psychologically, but he's probably
looks like
just trying to show the
Xelna did a couple of safety buffers there on the bomb jump. Just wanted to make sure he was lined up properly. Didn't want to lose more time to messing it up and failing it and having to do it again. So does a couple safety buffers, not a huge deal.
Xelna would probably usually use sword or dash buffers to adjust his position near the end there. So if you tap the D-pad and then hit sword, a frame later, you'll only go as far as that one frame movement will take you. And that's the way a lot of people adjust to get that second pick on the bomb play. The pause buffers are a little bit slower because it takes the menu a second for the menu to go up and down, but it looked like Xelna was just playing it safe on that bomb jump. He doesn't want to lose his advantage. He doesn't want to walk into a mistake by trying to cut corners here. And he knows that he's already had too many loops to be on world record pace. He's just trying to not make, I think, any kind of big mistake that Ben would be able to capitalize. But he's certainly still going to be playing his textbook, very efficient play.
You may have noticed both runners kind of wiggling back and forth as they move the statues throughout the run, like Ben is doing right now. This allows the characters to actually move slightly faster with the diagonals on the D-pad. And so it kind of looks like they're doing a little wiggle dance there, but it's just for faster movement. On the second phase of Helmasaur here, while you see Xelna with his hammer still out hacking away at Helmasaur King, there's a very small hitbox that you can actually hit him with the hammer and do more damage than sword slashes. And Xelna makes it just look effortless, but it's very difficult to execute well. Ooh, Ben having a really rough Helmasaur fight there. A lot of bad RNG going on. Had a great first phase, and second phase just didn't want to cooperate at all. And that's what I was saying earlier about the difficulty of the hammer on the second phase. And you kind of saw there how it looked as though he was lined up with the face of Helmasaur, but it just, the hitbox is so incredibly difficult to contact. Palace of Darkness is one of the worst dungeons to have a death in, because you have to do a number of things again in the dungeon to get back to the boss and give it a second attempt, which is always free. And that can be a terrible time loss for any race, but certainly against someone like as consistent as Xelna, this can be crippling for the racers.
Yeah, we had a question in chat. Is a Helmasaur death very punishing? Well, it's about 2 minutes. And can be as much as 2.5 minutes, depending on just what you need to do to get back to the fight and how long into the fight you were. So I would say it's in the 2 to 2.5 minute range. That doesn't put it among the worst deaths, but it's certainly not one of the better deaths. A blind death or a Mothula fight death would be only about a minute. A Chomp
And I
death would
think
be only about a
you
minute.
also need to consider in a race setting, while you're doing that dungeon for 2 minutes or more again, your opponent is advancing by another 2 minutes. So it's like a huge swing.
Yeah, so the real way to evaluate this now is Xelna was already ahead. And now he's got this extra 2 minutes. There basically isn't a death in the game that Xelna could undergo. Like, if Xelna dies once, basically no matter where it is, he will still be in good shape. He'll still be about even with Ben.
Yeah, because even a cold stare death, he would still be able to cruise through the Ice Palace again pretty easily with his skill level.
Yeah, so basically we've got to assume that he has about maybe a 3-minute advantage right now.
Yeah, I'd say it's about 3, maybe even more.
And yeah, cold stare, Trinex, it doesn't really matter who it is. Xelna can take the hit at any of them. And that's the best case. The best case scenario for Ben is that something happens to Xelna somewhere in Dark World. And that's just what we need to make it a race again. That won't even put Ben ahead anymore. So we've got to say huge preference for Xelna right now.
So Xelna's just cruising along through Thieves Town right now. Has to do a few things before he can progress the dungeon. As Ben's making up the time that he's lost, picking up a few items. You saw him get the shovel and shovel out the flute, which he'll need to get the duck, the swag duck, to be able to float around from point to point much more quickly than without. That's right, he's cruising. So the boss that Xelna is on his way to fight, it's done in this order because you need the second level power glove in order to be able to get the tempered sword immediately after. And fortunately, the boss of the dungeon here has a set amount of hits that he needs to be defeated rather than like an HP count per se. He has 3 heads and each of them need hit 3 times regardless what sword you have. So it's nice and convenient that having still only the second tier sword, that the fight can be won pretty effortlessly if you know how to do it. Blind fight looks kind of difficult at first and can definitely be intimidating for newer runners. It was certainly hard for me at first, but then once you learn that it's very patterned, it's an incredibly easy boss to defeat. Maybe I died to him earlier today in my 100% run because I'm a mutt. So Xelna's going to be using the second level glove that he has just picked up, the gold power mitt, in order to free the toad here that's going to be sprinting along with him. But she will turn back into a small dwarf who will fashion a phenomenal red sword for him. Meanwhile, Ben making his way through Thieves Town, trying his best to save as much time as possible to catch back up in some fashion to Xelna. Now you'll see Xelna, he's taken off, and he's going to be picking up 300 rupees that he can use later on to buy the flippers or finger webs in the JP version via some bad translation in order to get into the next dungeon following the one he is heading to now, which involves jumping in a little pool of water for a brief amount of time. Ben looks like he's handling blind pretty well so far. Looking to close out. Sets it up nicely. Looks like he has a pretty clean fight. And now he is also on his way to get the Tempered Sword.
We're seeing Xelna doing the mummy room. Definitely one of the hardest rooms of the game. You use Link's movement to manipulate the mummy movements. They move in response to the way you move. And we've definitely seen a few players, including myself, have some trouble there. But Xelna gets through it just fine. It's definitely a room that benefits from a lot of practice. And now he's doing another somewhat faster bomb jump to get here to the fire rod. Pretty much a smooth sailing so far in Skull Woods for Xelna. I do know that Mothula is Xelna's least favorite boss, one of the most unpredictable bosses, one of the ones where he feels he can lose the most time just due to bad patterns. So there maybe something will happen here, and we'll see Ben getting back into the race.
Xelna cruising down the streets right there with the fire rod dash, making it look easy.
Had a little bit of trouble in the mummy spike room. I believe he dashed into the spike to
Yeah,
get the key.
bumped the spike a little bit there.
Not too big of a worry.
Now you're going to see him dash into Mafula here, trying to get a double hit at the beginning.
And he gets it, and he gets two more
Has an
slashes.
incredible fight.
Yeah, so notice, take a look at the spikes. Not a single spike had time to move during that fight.
That's the kind of fight
Literally
that you
perfect fight.
screenshot for life.
So he
Take a
got
poster of that picture on your wall and hope that one day you can maybe never move the spikes.
Yeah,
but
it's
not
just amazing. The 3-hit, you get the double hit from the bonk, and then you get 2 slashes in, and it's just perfect. And you need good RNG for that, but you also need good execution. And Xelna had both. Yeah, nothing bad to say about Xelna's play here. Just putting on a clinic, as they say. And Ben, an excellent player, Ben, a terrific player of the speed game, is just struggling to not to lose time everywhere, really. Every split, basically every room, there's some efficiency that Xelna has that Ben is missing. The big thing still, of course, the initial difference after Eastern and the Helmosaur King death.
There's a question in chat. There actually is a run that involves holding on to the Master Sword. It's a low percent run, and it is noticeably longer than any percent. It's quite difficult, especially in the late game for a number of the enemies. If you're interested in watching low percent, one of the runners that's currently in the chat, Timon, has been grinding it in the last month or so. So if you have any questions about that, you could certainly ask him, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them.
You're seeing Xelna bonking against the wall here. That just sets up a quick warp. So whenever you warp, there's going to be a couple pixels on the screen where the mirror will, the animation will be 34 frames or about half a second faster. So you're going to see every time Xelna uses the mirror, and pretty much basically every time Ben uses it too, he might skip a couple. But every time Xelna uses the mirror, he's going to look for those pixels. He's going to have some sort of setup or some sort of plan to get to those pixels, and just save about 12 seconds over the course of the run with a bunch of reports. Ooh, Ben having some trouble there, and the Mummy Hellway gets bodied a little bit when he shot his fire rod the wrong way, and the Mummy walked into him when he tried to do it a second time. Now he's having some issues with... Yeah, so he really doesn't want to die again. That's why you see him getting that heart.
Picks up an extra heart there. Hopefully he can have a good start to the fight and it won't be much of an issue and he'll be able to handle it pretty well.
Almost a very good fight from Ben. Almost just as good as it was for Xelna, but he didn't get the double hit in the bonk. And he just waits a little longer. And we saw on Ben's splits, Ben has now skipped all of his splits. So he's not even going to split for the rest of the game until he gets to Ganon. That's a real sign that he's a little discouraged. He's thinking, I just need to calm down and play my game from here on out. And I'm not going to think about the time. I'm just going to think about not dying anymore. And he's just going to try to hold it together for the rest of this race. So hopefully we can see him doing that. I apologize for being ahead.
You better. Don't you dare ruin RPG's chat and stream experience. So again, Xelna just cruising along through Ice Palace here. A number of tricky things that he'll be doing. He's already dropped 2 bombs in a room earlier in order to save having to hit an orb later on. And now he's heading into the bomb jump. Should be no problem for him because he's a freak of nature. I would love to commentate your life. So now Ben picking up the Quake Medallion here. And he'll be heading off to buy the flippers. And then bounce on into the Ice Palace as well. Xelna, meanwhile, heading into the boss. Couldn't be a costly time loss, but again, even with a wipe here, would still have a comfortable lead over Ben.
Yeah, but we don't see a wipe.
Why would we?
Yeah, we saw the perfect...
Does Steph Curry miss 3-pointers? Hell no. That's cold stare for Xelna.
Definitely the real MVP of this game. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, what mistakes have we seen Xelna make recently that could bring Ben back into this? I know he died to Vitreous a couple races ago. Not in this tournament, but in a casual race, I think.
I saw him miss one wall pump one time. It was a frame that just I can never forget.
That was probably on Boxing Day.
Solid.
Just to explain all the great little stuff we see. He saves frames in so many places. We see him running into the bird, That's so that he can scroll the screen a little bit while the bird is coming to catch him. And that means that the bird, there's a little bit less time, I think, for the bird to travel across the screen. You can do that in a number of flute times, and each one has kind of a different setup. If you do it wrong, the bird won't pick you up. So a few people spent a while working on all these for the different times the bird picks you up throughout the game. Maybe a year or so ago, and just saved a few frames. We do see a bonk from Xelna, so that's about half a second back to Ben. Probably not going to change things too much.
Just learned today that little fish you saw flopping around there, you actually can't do anything besides pick it up and carry it around. Emma tried setting it on fire to no avail. Can't hit it or anything. It's kind of just upsetting. It's just kind of there.
I tried
But do you
freezing
guys
it.
know the secret with the fish? Do you guys know the...
Yeah, you take it to the guy for
Yeah.
some rupees, yeah?
Yeah, you get some stuff. Well, you can throw it in the pond to the north, but you can also bring it to the guy who sells the bottle, Kakariko.
Yeah,
He
we...
gives you a bunch of stuff. I didn't learn that until... I'd already been speedrunning this game for like a year when I learned that. I think I saw somebody do it in a puzzle or something.
Yeah, I tried like freezing it, setting it on fire, hitting it with a hammer, hitting it with my sword, hitting it with an arrow, bombing it, and absolutely nothing happened. So I ended up just picking it up and seeing how far I could carry it. And then I fell into the water and it gave me rupees. So that was a fun experiment.
On not getting that arrow pickup there. Very sad. I'm big on getting drops, but 18 arrows is more than enough. He's got enough arrows, he's got enough bombs. He's just looking good.
Ben with a perfect cold stare fight. With the sword, dashes into the sword spin. Bangs it out pretty cleanly.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Ben can still get a sub 130, which would be enough to have won, for example, my race against Blunt Bunny. He's not on a horrible pace or anything like that, but definitely kicking himself for that Helma King thing. I think it's all the Final Fantasy, K-Rob. I think you played too much Final Fantasy, you get used to, like, these games have, like, 10 minutes of people just, like, talking to each other about whether they should make out, you know? And you don't have anything like that in Zelda. You gotta...
Don't tease me about my hobbies. I have to read about characters making out because I think we all know I'm never doing it.
Oh, of course,
Just
yeah.
12 out of 10.
Yeah, we got the 12 out of 10
All the
body.
Twitch
That's good.
groupies in the world. Yeah, look, even RPG says Final Fantasy rolls deep. My boy RPG running FF8 recently like a boss. He knows.
You gotta come to AGDQ, K-Rob. You can be one of the 100 guys trying to hook up with the one girl. Unless Emma's there.
I will not be going.
I was gonna say it could be two girls. I probably shouldn't say that on stream, but that's okay. How are we doing?
Way to kill the mood, RW.
That's what I'm best at. That's what I'm best at. That's my real skill, killing the mood.
Ouch.
We see Xelna has full hearts. Doesn't seem to have lost a single heart in this swamp. When he's playing like this, there's just nothing to say. Everything is just so clean. He does mess up a strat there a little bit. I think his first input there was diagonal rather than cardinal. I bonk in that room a lot too. Doesn't even take damage while I'm ahead. He didn't even take damage in the swimming room. And now we're going to see him go for 0 cycle Argus.
Easy every time for sure.
So what he does with 0 cycle Argus... Oh, but he missed the quick kill. What you see with 0 cycle Argus is you use simultaneous input hook and swords to convince the game that you still have the sword out while you're hitting the hook shot. And with the tempered sword, it's gonna convince it to do extra damage or something. I'm not doing a good job of explaining this.
It just does some shit and he dies really quickly.
Basically,
Just take our word for it.
Basically, you don't need to slash the sword. The puffs just come into the sword right when you hookshot them, and it can be a real problem for Argus there. Gotta say, I think the lead has extended to somewhat more than 3 minutes here. As we see, there's no consensus on where what we call endgame begins. I think some people would call Misery Mire, the dungeon that Xelna's about to start. Some people would call Misery Mire endgame, and some people would just call Turtle Rock the beginning of endgame. Certainly, there's a huge difficulty leap between Swamp and Misery Mire. But that's partly because Swamp is so simple.
So now Xelna's gotten the second medallion. He's gonna head up or I guess down rather on the map, cardinal directions. Nice. In order to get the last item before he enters the last couple of dungeons, which will be the ice rod, which will be useful in exactly one room.
Yep, ice rod. It would be beautiful to be able to skip the ice rod, find a way to kill Trinex without it. Just like it would be beautiful for no EG to be able to skip the hammer to find a way to get through the pegs in Ganon's tower. But alas, the ice rod, which some people sometimes forget, is going to keep taking up about 45 seconds of our run until that happens. Now in Mire, we're going to see Xelna really trying to conserve his health, because you have to take damage from spikes to get a key, and you have to take damage from Vitreous in order to do the optimal strat. So
Xelna opts not to throw the frozen bird into the lake, which is terrible for RNG manipulation. So hopefully he gets a good draw, but it's unlikely at this point.
yeah, he's just
Not throwing the bird is just rough. That's a tough, bold move.
he's
Minus 10
obviously
swag
going to
points.
lose his lead here.
Minus 10 swag points, minus 1,000 swag points. That's why I'm Team Ben.
But what if he doesn't throw the bird?
Then I don't know what the hell he's doing. Why is he even playing this game?
So it sounds like the main thing we're watching for in the remainder of this run is whether Ben throws the bird. That'll be coming up in just a few minutes, so till then we can just watch Xelna's Mire in awe.
Now we see people in Ben's chat telling him to throw the bird.
That seems like cheating to me. I don't know. We see
Not anything to say.
Xelna. Xelna still at 10 hearts going into the Volcano of Samaria and the Spike Room. And still got 7 after the Spike Room, so he's got more than enough for Vitreous. We saw Haljeff MI, poor little Pinkus, do a great 5-heart Vitreous the other day. But Xelna will probably go for the more normal 7-heart strat, which I think is a bit easier.
So in this room that Xelna's in now, he's going to do a cane dash. It looks pretty sweet. You do an item dash with the cane in a way so that it explodes and its fireball hits the orb. The only issue that you can really run into is if it hits the spike that's bouncing back and forth, then you have to do some kind of alternative, whether it be just a block at the top or if you have sword beams, whatever. You need to hit it with something if that fails.
Yeah, it's great because you've already got the cane out for laying that block, and people just found a strat to hit that switch really quickly with it. Definitely a very pretty strat, very efficient. And you saw after Xelna laid the bomb, he used the fire rod on the next switch because the bomb switched him directly to fire rod. Now he's going to be killing Vitreous. He's going to be walking into the acid to damage boost and spin as many of the eyes as possible as he can.
Ben has just made my day.
Good job, Ben. You're the real MVP of this race.
Win or lose, I know who the real winner is. His name rhymes with Ken.
Okay.
Nice one.
I couldn't think of anything that rhymes with Ben because I'm a mutt.
And
But he threw the bird. He threw the bird. That's all that matters.
We saw a pretty perfect Vitreous there from Xelna. Only needed 1 arrow to kill the last eye there. So you're getting the double spins on the eyes. Ideally on a whole lot of them at once. And the eyes themselves do 4 hearts of damage, but the acid around them only does 1 heart. So if you damage boost through the acid, you take basically 2 hearts of damage per double spin. And you can get through the fight very quickly. Often you can get through it without Vitreous having time to shoot lightning even once, which is what you saw there. And that strat looks very dangerous, but you practice it starts to feel nice and safe. Of course, you will still die every now and then because it's a hard game. It's one of those ironies of speed gaming that it's almost harder to commentate Xelna. He's doing everything so well, and there's so many things that make every room so quick and efficient for him. He starts dashes exactly when he needs to, stops them exactly when he needs to. His menus are quick. His movement is quick. He avoids enemies. He reacts. He knows pixels for various strats, various tricks. And it's just all firing on all cylinders every room. So it's hard sometimes to know even what to talk about from room to room.
So now Xelna's heading into the last of the crystal dungeons, which is Turtle Rock. There's a number of difficult rooms in here, but I'm sure he'll be able to handle them pretty well, and you'll be able to make them, or at least see them done pretty easily and look simpler than they really are. There are two different routes you can really do at the start of this. One of them involves tanking some damage, which is slightly faster than mirroring out. Certainly we'll see Xelna take the damage and save a couple seconds. So Xelna picks up the boss key here, and now he'll head for the second half of the dungeon. He'll be skipping the item that you can pick up in this dungeon, which is the mirror shield. It's really only useful a couple of times, but you don't need it necessarily at all at any point in the run. There's one room in this dungeon that's intended to use the mirror shield, but it's significantly quicker not to get it and to just do some frame perfect movement into a chest area. Meanwhile, Ben's finished up Vitreous pretty nicely, and he'll be heading off to Turtle Rock as well.
I'm a pretty big fan of Xelna's chest area myself.
So lewd.
Well then.
Xelna doing the silly pot strat, an old Dresden strat where you hold the pot while you're on the platform and wait for the fire bar to knock it out of your hands. Actually loses a couple frames because you walk slower with a pot in your hands. Doesn't quite get the fastest laser skip. Because he needs to slash the guy out of the way, but most of us do a much slower laser skip than even that. Because it's very...
That's the room that was intended to use the mirror shield. You can just block all of those lasers and walk at a normal pace, and you don't have to worry about getting hit by them at all with the mirror shield. But without it, you can dash by them pretty effortlessly as long as your timing is pretty solid.
Yep, and another routine boss fight from Xelna. Gets the double spin, so if you position yourself right, you're gonna get the spin will hit the first head twice, and then you just need one slash after that. And he positions himself so that he gets bounced back into a place where he can just spam slashing right, and he hits the head right when it's vulnerable again. So just textbook play, nothing to say about it.
Ben gets some pretty decent RNG with the chain chomps. Places a couple of blocks, has no problem getting past them. Picks up the key and heads on out.
Looks like he might still be waiting for his drops. Is that right? So you kind of, if you do everything right in Aghanim's Tower, you're expecting a fairy drop and a big magic drop in this dungeon, and it looks like he hasn't gotten either of them yet. So he'll be feeling even better after he kills some of the other enemies.
Yeah, he'll probably get it with one of the pokies, yeah.
Yeah, either the one here or one of the ones in the next room. Yep, nothing from that one, but I may be ahead again, I apologize. Spoiling the drops. So Xelna's getting into Ganon's Tower. This is the first half of Ganon's Tower is basically all movement rooms. And little strats to get across from one place to another. Then you fight Armos again. Then the second half of Ganon's Tower is basically all combat rooms. You have two rooms with mimics, a room with a bunch of spikes, and then a room with a bunch of cannonballs. Then you've got the Gauntlet and the refight of Landmo. Then you have a bunch of rooms with whiz robes and a bunch of rooms with torches. Then you have the Moldorm refight, and then you have the Aghanim refight. So basically constant action, and I recommend just watching because it's going to be beautiful the way Xelna does it.
So Ben gets both of the drops there, got the full magic and the fairy drop from both of those pokies. So now he is locked and loaded to finish up the dungeon. Meanwhile, Xelna is preparing to fight the Armos Knights for the second time. However, this time he'll be on a little bit of ice. Fight starts out pretty smoothly, and it looks like it's going to end the same. Ben, with a nice laser skip, starts heading towards Trinex and looks like he's going to go finish up Turtle Rock as well.
We're going to see another Trinex fight, and hopefully it's just as routine as Xelna's. Meanwhile, we're going to see Xelna starting to do some of the really intense parts of Ganon's Tower.
These two Mimic rooms are two of the hardest rooms to master. There's a number of ways you can do them, and I mean, as you watch Xelna just do them, he just crushes them, but everyone kind of has their own method.
And Xelna's strats are definitely among the most efficient. Xelna still, people don't realize this always, but Xelna still does some slower strats in certain rooms. In fact, every player does. Every player has their rooms where they say, I'm just going to go with this somewhat slower strat for consistency because I can't get the other one. Even Crystal, who had the world record before Xelna, Crystal was actually, people didn't realize this, but given what she was capable of, she was actually quite a conservative player, and always went for something that she would be able to execute in a run. And that's my recommendation. You don't want to be using strats that you feel are coin flips to you. It's just never going to feel good in a run. Always do what you're comfortable with. Anybody who's watching, who's thinking of picking this game up, just do things you're comfortable with, improve them, and then if you want to learn something new, you know, sit down with that and just crank that out until you're comfortable with that.
Xelna gets a nice one cycle Lamolus with the fire rod.
So with the fire rod, we want to get the spin, and then a fire rod shot on that first landmo, and then on the other ones we want to get 2 fire rods off, and that'll be enough to kill each of them before any of them get back underground. But based on their patterns, it can be a little difficult to catch all of them. And all of my tournament races so far, I've had to wait for a second cycle. If you do get the silver arrows and the golden sword, you can kill each of them in one hit with the silver arrows. So that's preferred in that case. And that also, you have kind of about magic in that route. But arrows also lag the game a bit. So some people who get gold swords still use fire rod in that round. It's a little bit up to taste. Xelna skipping the magic. He says, why do I need magic? My Ganon fight will be perfect. Not gonna hover. Why do I need to hover? I'm 4 minutes ahead.
I like the first person Xelna commentary that you're giving right now.
Why am I so pretty? I was just born that way.
The damn Hansel's so hot right now. Saw someone said that in chat, made me happy. Moth.
Now we're gonna see the Ajneb174 fight from Xelna. You wanna kind of use a geometric sense. Ooh, good first pattern. Probably ahead, but you just always want to be aiming to hit the main Ajneb with 3 energy balls. Xelna just missed out on a 2 cycle here, so 2 cycles the best you can do. But bad patterns or blue balls coming from the main Ajneb. So the main Ajneb can still give you blue balls in this fight. The 2 invisible ones, the ghost ones, I mean, invisible, intangible, whatever they are. The 2 fake Ajnebs, the ghost Ajnebs, they can't give you blue balls, so.
Ben heading into the Ice Armos as Xelna's preparing to finish up with Ganon. Hopefully he has a pretty clean fight.
Yeah, it looks like Ben having a little trouble with the fast Ice Armor strat. That's why I still do the slow one, but he cleans it up pretty well. We're going to see Ganon coming in 4 phases. The first phase is the Trident Throw phase. You need 12 points of damage on Ganon during that phase. The second phase is the Fire Bats phase. You need 12 points of damage on Ganon during that phase. Or let's say 24, because of low percent runners.
Xelna gets a great 1-in-1 there. 1 cycle on everything, and now he's just going to try to clean it up, wrap this up, and ship it.
Yeah. So the 1 cycle you saw, Ganon only threw his Trident once, and he only summoned the Fire Bats once. So he's in great shape, and now we're going to see Xelna using Wall. Ganon is warping. Xelna will be using spins, and those he needs 12 of those with the Tempered Sword. And he does not need, despite what you might have thought, the Silver Arrows. I'm feeling guilty about it today. Somebody once got very mad at me for saying that casually you probably need the silver arrows during a playthrough because they felt it was a spoiler. I didn't think that was a spoiler because the game tells you that, but not really my place. Sad times.
You can hurt all the feelings you want, I don't care.
Well, thanks. That's what friends are for. So we're seeing Xelna with casual 124.31, just casually tying the 3rd best time on the leaderboard with a lot of blue balls and the occasional slop in there. Maybe we'll get him in here for an interview. I don't really have many questions. It's just what we always see from Xelna. It's so clean. It's just so good.
Yeah, just a casual 124, no big deal.
Yep. Just nothing to... Yep. I don't even know what to say anymore.
So now Ben's heading out of the first Wizrobe room, heading into the second. If you're like relatively new to the run, if you're looking at Ben's stream right now and noticing that he's like pretty far behind, what you should take note of is that he's on a really strong pace despite having some trouble early on.
Hey, Xelna, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. You?
I'm doing pretty well. We were just talking about how beautiful you are. Really, me and K-Rob. It's good to have another Xelna aficionado who appreciates you not just for your amazing play, but for your body.
Okay.
So, any thoughts about? I mean, another casual 124 with high blue ball count, very clean run. You were never trailing. You were about 15 seconds ahead starting in Eastern, and then with the Helmetsor death, there was just no competition. How do you feel about your run? How do you feel about the tournament?
The tournament overall is going pretty good for me. This run in particular, the start was a bit sloppy. Skullwoods, I got grabbed by the Wallmaster, and Ice Palace, I failed Ice Palace bombs once. But then everything after that seemed pretty solid, and that Ganon's Tower might have been a sub 7, which is like super good.
Yeah, that's incredible. I noticed that
And
you had a 10:31 Eastern.
yeah, that too.
Until you had a little bit of trouble in Desert Overworld, falling off that ledge, but you still had the 3 cycle. So I think it was a 22:07 Harris, so very clean start, basically until the blue balls.
Yeah, you can make a few little mistakes, but as long as you get 3 cycle land mode, it kind of makes up for it. So yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Let me ask you a question. So I don't know, this might be an awkward question for you, but naturally you're the presumptive favorite for the tournament, for the winners bracket, as well as for the final. Who are some of the runners who you feel are threatening? You know, which of the who do you think is competitive of the remaining ones to challenge you?
Well, there's like 3, but you never know what can happen. But I think Addy, WQ, and Pinkus, those 3 are really good at the game. And as long as they stay within like 2 minutes, and if somebody dies in the race, then like they can win.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. They're definitely all 3 of them are definitely players who, on an incredible run, could really blow up. Addy's PB definitely doesn't reflect his play anymore. He's definitely 125 skill these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Hey, congratulations on the run, man, and we'll watch Ben finish up here with Ganon as he wraps up his race. And congrats on the win, man. It was a really awesome race to watch and definitely a solid run for us to see as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for commentating. I didn't watch the restream, but I saw the chat saying like, "Oh, Ben died to Helmetsor," so that's unfortunate. Apparently, he got pinned against the wall.
Yeah, he kind of like rushed him at the front wall and had a little issue with that. He went for the hammer strats on the second phase, obviously, and he missed a couple at the beginning, and then just kind of had some bad RNG go against his favor at that point.
Yeah,
he didn't have a bad run otherwise, though. He's gonna have a low 130, I believe, even with the Helmetsor deaths. They're not that bad. Not that bad for him. He did have a high blue ball count, and he had a few slip ups on a few places in Dark World. So,
yeah, both of your Aghanim ones were pretty brutal.
Yeah, chat was very
no one really made up or lost a ton of time on the other at that point. Really, the Helmetsor was the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think it was 4 and 5 blue balls, so it's meh, whatever.
Yeah, 6 seconds, not even worth thinking about.
Bad and worse.
Do you have any final words, Xelna? Anything else to say about?
Well, congrats to Ben for finishing. I know it's not easy to finish after a death, but yeah, congrats.
Yep, and it looks like let's talk about who the two of you have coming up. What match is this? This is match 107. So loser of 107. So Ben will be playing. Okay, there's a few matches to get to where Ben is, but it looks like he'll probably be playing the eventual winner of probably either Revolver or Blunt Bunny. So that can definitely be a good match. Either of those against Ben. Blunt Bunny has a 125 and Revolver has a 126. So with Ben having a 126, either of those would be very competitive races.
Who does Xelna have? Is it Andy ACM?
Yeah, it looks like. Well, I don't know if HDM and Chris have ever done their race. I don't know what happened with that. But it looks like it'll be Andy, ACM, or Chris.
And those three are about the same level. ACM has a 125.45, but Christo's still pretty good, and Andy.
Yeah, Christos is good, and Andy and ACM haven't been playing that much, so they're all similar levels. Those matches 89 and 108 to get to Xelna in the final four. Either of those could be. Those will definitely be worth watching. Those will definitely both be interesting matches. And we definitely look forward to seeing you in the final four against one of them. We'll definitely be cheering for you when you are. We definitely will anticipate you having a good performance there again. And just thanks for all of your inspiring play. I don't know if I'm gonna head out, K-Rob, but I don't know if you're gonna interview Ben here really quickly.
Hey.
Hey Ben, what's going on, my man?
Not much.
Sorry he had a little trouble with Helmasaur, but other than that,
so
man, the run
fine.
was a lot of fun to watch. Definitely won the chat over when you threw the bird into the lake. It was probably the most hyped part of the entire race, actually. So anything you want to say, like generally speaking, about how the run went? I mean, we kind of all saw like the issues that it ran into, but there were certainly some positives to take away from that as well.
Lightworld was fine without the blue balls, I think. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really play much since the race with Timon. So I'm okay with that. After the Elma dead, yeah, I actually was on the reset button as a reflex, and I just stopped myself. I don't know. After that, I wasn't really into the run at all. Then I went back on ice and I tried to play at least.
Yeah, we saw that you skipped forward on all your splits at that point, and we're just trying to focus on finishing. It can certainly be derailing when things go awry, and it can be tough to finish a run. So it was awesome that you were able to still have a pretty solid mid and late game.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, I knew I was about to lose anyway. I really needed Xelna to fuck up badly, and he doesn't do that, so...
Yeah, he doesn't do that. Fair enough.
I knew it would have been really tough, but yeah. Not a great start in Dark World.
All right, well, hey, guys, thanks so much for the race. It was a lot of fun. Certainly a nice change of pace for everyone's Tuesday. There will be a number of races tomorrow featuring, I don't know who all is running tomorrow. Pinkus and RW, co-commentator during this run, will be racing tomorrow on 420. It'll occur at 420, so it's going to be like the most blazing race of all time. Followed by Scrivo and Kaznode tomorrow evening at 8:30 Eastern. So definitely come hang out, check out some of those races. Definitely be a good time. Thanks again, Ben and Xelna. It was a lot of fun to watch. Take care.
All right, thanks for having us in the post-race comments, and talk to you later.
Later.
Yeah, congrats.
See ya.
Bye.